All right, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go ahead and get started here this morning. Let me begin with good morning, boys and girls. I got to say, you guys look good. Could I have everyone that's wearing purple stand up for me? Because these are the most intelligent people when it comes to football fans right here. Ravens, right? That's right, Ravens. What team do you represent? Go ahead and tell me real quick. What team are you? Now, I do need to ask real quick, based on who is in the Super Bowl, is anybody wearing a Chiefs jersey or a Buccaneers jersey? Oh, we actually got one. Okay. Are you Buccaneers? No, you are Chiefs. All right. So both of you had a good person in the a good team in the Super Bowl. They just didn't quite make it. Right there. That's right. They didn't quite make it. Fun stuff right there. How many of you don't even know who was playing last night? Yeah. And that's okay too. There is nothing wrong with that. We can wear a fun jersey regardless of whether or not we know anything about football. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started though this morning, as this is a special week for us. We're very thankful to be able to have Elementary Spiritual Emphasis Week. And throughout this week, we're going to have chapel every morning, all right? Every morning, and then we're going to have sessions, special sessions, even in the afternoon for certain ones of you each and every day. And so we'll see how all that runs. I'd like to have you guys say good morning, though, to Mr. Lutman. Can we say good morning, Mr. Lutman? As you can see on the screen, he is with Bible Visuals International. He's the director of BVI, Bible Visuals International, and they're a group, he'll tell you a lot more than I will, but they're a group that makes and creates Bible stories, and he's going to present some of those to you guys here throughout this week, so very exciting stuff. Let's, though, begin with our pledges. If we could have everyone please stand to their feet for me. Fourth grade, if you guys could come do pledges for us. And while they're coming up, let's go ahead and quote our theme verse, Psalm 34:3. Oh, magnify the Lord with me, and let us exalt his name together. Go ahead. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I pledge allegiance to the Christian flag and to the Savior for whose kingdom it stands, one Savior, crucified, risen and coming again, with life and liberty to all who believe. I pledge allegiance to the Bible, God's holy word. I will make it a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my path. I will hide its words in my heart, that I might not sin against God. Go ahead.
Dear Lord, thank you that we got to go to chapel and that we can all gather together and learn more about you. Please hope that our chapel will go well, and thank you that Mr. Lutman got here safely. Please hope that Spiritual Emphasis Week will go well. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you guys very much. You can be seated. All right, before we give this over to Mr. Lutman for his presentation here this morning, I do want to go through birthdays, seeming as we didn't get to have chapel last week because of snow, and so I've got 2 weeks worth of birthdays to go through, but only 2 students to bring up. First of all, from 2nd grade, we have Miss Cameron. Come on up, Miss Cameron. I'm going to try and hold the mic and do all this at the same time. Ugh. Those are strong pencils. Come right on up here for us there, Miss Cameron. And how old are you?
8.
8. That's a great age. And what pencil do you want? Lots of choices. Ooh, purple one with lots of balloons. That's good. Stand right there for me. Secondly, we have from 6th grade, Miss Serena. Come on down, Serena. We'll have you come over to this side for us, Serena. And how old are you? 12. There we go, some fun stuff. All right, and let's all sing happy birthday to them, all right? Happy birthday to you. Happy Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, God bless you. Happy birthday to you. Woo! That is good, that is good. Now, Serena, your birthday's today, right? Yes, so a little bit, Cameron was last week there, but Serena's birthday is today. So all day long, go past Serena and say, happy birthday, until eventually it gets old for her, all right? Because she's getting old, 12, oh my. That's the way that goes right there. All right, at this time, rather than me going through a song, I know there's a song a little bit later in the presentation, so I'm going to give things over. I want you guys to sit up, not stand up, sit up straight, be at attention, and be ready to learn some good things here with Mr. Lutman.
All right, I think I'm on here. Good to be with you here today and for this week. I'm really excited to be here. I've been praying about this opportunity, and I didn't bring a football jersey myself. I guess I don't have a particular football team. I never grew up cheering for a particular team in the NFL, and that was mainly because I didn't grow up in the United States. I grew up in the same place that Mr. Lavoie grew up. So I got Team Canada here, okay? I grew up in a place called Nova Scotia, Canada, but I live here in the good US of A now as well, and I work with a ministry called Bible Visuals International. And Bible Visuals International is a ministry that is focused on reaching a mission field, a particular mission field of the world. Now, you might think of different countries, and people go to different countries and share the good news of Jesus Christ. But this mission field is not a country, although it's in every country. It's a group of people. Anyone guess who that group of people might be? Anyone? Hands if you think you can guess. Yes. Missionary, helping other missionaries. There are organizations that help other missionaries. Yeah. Kids, that's right, children. Bible Visuals International is focused on reaching the mission field of children, right? Sharing the good news of Jesus Christ. And so we do that by creating lots of materials and lots of Bible lessons and stories and songs, and we put them out in lots of languages, and we send them out in various ways, and so I get to help creating those materials. But I don't always get to see kids. Well, at least not a bunch of kids like this. I have 5 children of my own at home, so I do see them quite often. But it's great to see you guys and be able to share one of those stories. That's what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be sharing during our chapel time one of those stories with you in the next several days. Now, before we do that, though, I want to share with you a song. I told you that we do songs as well, and this song is one called I Sing the Mighty Power of God, and there's a reason I'm sharing this one with you today. Anyone ever heard this song before? Put up your hand if you've heard this one. Okay, you're going to have to be my super helper singers, okay, if you know it. Because it says this, I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, that spread the flowing seas abroad and built the lofty skies. I sing the wisdom that ordained the sun to rule the day, the moon shines full at his command, and all the stars obey. This song, it's an older song, but it talks about God's power in creation. And boy, we can look outside. Maybe you looked at that snow that came yesterday, and it's beautiful. But we don't want to miss, even seeing the beauty of that creation, who it is that created all that. It is God, and he shows his power in creation. And he even shows his grace to us through his creation. I'm going to be talking about God's grace. So we're going to try singing this song. Maybe we'll just do the first verse today, since many of you are unfamiliar with it. But I'm going to try singing, okay? So if you know this, you better help me out, okay? It goes like this. I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, that spread the flowing seas abroad and built the lofty skies. I sing the wisdom that ordained the sun to rule the day. The moon shines full at his command, and all the stars obey. right? I love it talks about the stars there. You know, it says in probably the oldest book in the Bible, the book of Job, the oldest one written, it talks about, oh, there we go, let me get that back up here. It talks about a group of stars called the Pleiades, and it says how God is the one who binds them together. And if you can actually see these with a pair of binoculars, you can look out and see those stars in the sky if you get in a clear place. And they are a cluster of stars that really are close to each other. It doesn't just appear that way. And it talks about how God is the one who takes those, those huge stars, those gas giants there, and keeps them bound together. That's a lot of power, isn't it? That's who our God is. He is a powerful God. But he is a God who shows grace to us by giving us life. And even the breaths that you're taking right now are gifts from him. God giving us good things that we don't deserve because of our sin. But God is gracious in giving us these things. Well, I told you that I want to share with you today, in the next few days, a story. Now, you got to know a little bit about me, but I want to tell you a story about someone else, someone that I got to know maybe about 8 years ago. I started learning about this man's life, okay? And he's been a good companion to me over the past several years, and I think you're going to enjoy learning about him, and you might realize that you know something about him already once we get into the story. Now, the story that I'm going to share, this is a true story, and it's called Depths of Grace. We talked about grace. Grace is God giving us something good that we do not deserve. All right? God showing us good things, giving us good things. And the main good thing that God has given us that we don't deserve is his Son, Jesus Christ, who came to this earth. It says even that while we were yet sinners, while we were still in our sin, Christ died for us. Because Jesus came to this earth, he came and he with a purpose to go to the cross to die for your sins and for my sins so we might have a right relationship with God by trusting in him. Well, we're going to learn about how God showed grace to this man whose name is, maybe you can see it up there, his name is John Newton. And we're going to start about learning about the life of John Newton, not when he was an adult, but when he was a child. When John was actually about 5 years old. Do we have any 5-year-olds? A couple 5-year-olds. So when John Newton was your age. Okay, we're going to start learning about him. Well, one morning, John was sitting with his mother in their home, and they were talking to each other. In fact, John's mother was asking him questions. She asked him a question. She said, "John, what is God?" Now, that sounds a little strange, but John, he sat up and he gave an answer. He said, "God is a spirit, infinite in his being, eternal and unchangeable." Wow, those are some big words for a 5-year-old to say. But John knew those words. He had memorized the answer. Well, John's mother continued. She said, "John, is there more than one God?" John said, "No, I know the answer to this one. There is only one living and true God." "Good job," said John's mother. "You will have the shorter catechism memorized, I think, before you are 6 years old." Now, what's the shorter catechism? Let me tell you. You see, each morning, John and his mother would sit there, maybe right after breakfast, and they would go through a list of 106 questions and memorize and the answers. It was a whole list, and she would give the question part of it, and John would give the answers. He was memorize these things. Maybe you've gone over some things with your mom and dad before. Maybe it's a memory verse that they've helped you go through, or maybe it's a spelling list, or maybe it's some facts in history, but you've gone back and forth and you've learned those things. Well, John's mother took time with him each morning. She wanted him to know these truths about who God is. And so they kept going. Well, his mother continued. She said, "What is God's work of creation?" And John, he said, "Oh, I know that one. God made all things in the space of 6 days and said that they are good." That's what the Bible teaches, doesn't it? God made everything in 6 days' time. Well, they would have continued with their questions, except John's mother began to cough. And this often happened. John's mother was rather sickly. And so while he was waiting for her to get over her cough and maybe get a drink of water, thank you, Mr. Dave, I got my water here, John had an opportunity to ask a question. He said, Mother, what day did God create the seas? Well, she thought, I believe it was on the third day, John. It says that God gathered the waters together. Well, which one is Father on right now? Well, I think from your father's last letter, it said that he was on the Mediterranean Sea. You see, John's father was a merchant ship captain, and it had been over a year since John had seen his father last. That must have been pretty hard. I know I said goodbye to my children yesterday. I'm not going to see them till Thursday, and I know how hard it is just to be away for a few days. But John had not seen his father for that long, and they didn't have texting, and they didn't have emails, and all those things that we have today. And so he had not seen his father for a long time. He said, Mother, do you think Father will ever take me on one of his sailing voyages? Oh, Mother smiled. She said, such questions. Let's continue. Well, the thoughts of the sea were never far from John's mind as he lived in the town of Wapping. That sounds like a sound effect. But it's a town that was just outside the great city of London, England. And it was on the Thames River. And so there were always sailors and there were always ship's captains coming through the town there, bringing news of the voyages, the ships on the sea. And every Sunday, John's mother would take John to a church there in Wapping. It was called the Old Gravel Lane Chapel. And they would go and they would hear the Pastor Jennings, preach each Sunday. But sometimes they would have a visitor who would come. And John loved it when this one visitor would come. His name was Dr. Isaac Watts. And John loved it because Dr. Isaac Watts liked to share songs. Now, when they preached in those days, they used to, the ministers would wear these wigs on their heads there. It was kind of a custom that they had in those days. So it looks a little different to you, but they did that, and they had the black robes. Yeah. And so Dr. Isaac Watts would come, and he would share from the Word, but he would also share hymns or songs. And John loved to sing. He loved to sing the songs of Dr. Isaac Watts, like When I Survey the Wondrous Cross, or maybe this one that you've heard at Christmas time, Joy to the World. That's right. You know a song by this man, Dr. Isaac Watts. It was written a long time ago, and we still sing it today. And John loved singing it, but his favorite song was one called I Sing the Mighty Power of God. That's the one we just sang, wasn't it? And so after the preaching there that Sunday, John and his mother were walking home, and John was there. It was a great day. John was maybe whistling the tune. Any of you guys know how to whistle? Okay. Yeah, a few of you do. Okay. Maybe he was humming the tune, or maybe he was just singing it out there. Good. Yeah, all right, you can show me later your whistling ability. Okay. Well, John was singing this song. He was singing there just the words that we sang just a few moments ago. And he would have continued singing the song. All right, keep the whistles down now. Okay, I know you can whistle. My daughter likes to do that too. Well, he kept on singing, but he had to stop finally because his mother started coughing again. And it seemed like each day her coughing was getting worse and worse. And finally his mother, she stopped. She said, John, stop for a moment. I have to tell you something, John. I'm going away to my cousins. The doctors say that the sea air where they live might be good for me, for my lungs. Well, John was excited. He said, wow, that's great. You've told me all about your cousins, the Catlets. When do we leave? No, his mother said, you don't understand, John. I'm going, but you will be staying here. You'll be staying with our friends, the Marsdens, while I'm gone. I'll be gone for just a few months. Well, John was sad. His father was already away. And now his mother was going away. You can imagine how sad you'd be to have both your parents gone there. And John was very sad. Well, those months, 2 months that he thought his mother would be away, turned into 3 months, 4 months, 5. It was a long time. Now, the Marsdens were nice people, but John, he so wished that he could see his mother again and his father. Well, one day, Mrs. Marsden said, John, there's someone here to see you. John hurried down from his room to the parlor room, and there was not his mother or his father, but his pastor, Dr. Jennings. And Dr. Jennings came and said, "John, I'm here today. I'm sorry to give you some very sad and terrible news. Your mother has died." Well, you can imagine the tears that came in John's eyes as he heard the news that his mother was dead. And John's pastor, Dr. Jennings, said, "John, I know it's hard for you to understand this right now, but I want you to know that God is a loving God and full of grace. Even in the death of his children, like your mother, she believed in him. And when he takes life, it's for good and not for evil." Well, John, the only thing that John knew was his mother was gone. And his father was away still. And so John continued to stay with the Marsdens until finally his father returned from that sea voyage. And John hoped that things would return to normal, at least having his father there. But soon after his father returned, John was packed off and sent to a boarding school. John's father soon remarried, and John went to live at a boarding school. You know what a boarding school is? All right, right back here in the team from Washington. Yeah. Hey. You're wearing it. Yeah. Okay. Sorry, he's got it too. Yeah. Yes.
It's a place where kids go when they have nowhere else to go.
Yeah, and you actually stay there all the time, right? You're there overnight. And so John had to stay there all the time, and he didn't see his father or his stepmother, and the only time that he would come home would be on holidays. And soon John's father and his stepmother began a family of their own. And as the years passed, a child was added, and the second and the third, and it seemed as each new child came into that family's life that John was forgotten. And John was so sad during his time at the boarding school. Well, he was lonely too. That's why he was surprised when one day he came back on holiday to his home there to see his father and his stepmother and the family. And his father said, "John, you're 10 years old now." How many of you are 10? Any 10-year-olds? All right, so we've gone from 5 years old to 10 years old. And he said, "John, you're 10 years old now, and you are old enough now to come on a sea voyage with me." Well, John was excited about that. He had always dreamed about going on a ship there and seeing the world on one of these voyages. Well, in the weeks that followed, John said goodbye to the boarding school. He was glad to say goodbye to that. And soon he was climbing on board the ship. And this was his first time on a ship, a merchant ship. And as he came on, he looked around, and there was so much to see. It was just like a bunch of activity. People bringing big barrels and bags and putting up the sails and all sorts of things that I don't know about. I've never been on a sailing voyage like that. But it was all new to John. And as he looked around, he looked at the high rigging there and the men up there on the sails, and he heard a voice. He said, "Hey, watch out there. You keep looking up like that, you're going to be an easy target for the seagulls." He looked around, and he saw a young boy who wasn't much older than him. He said, "Hey, my name's Bill, and I can see that you're not too familiar with this here ship. Is this your first voyage?" "Yes," said John. "My father, this is the first time he's taken me on one of his sea voyages." "Your father? Why, your father wouldn't be Captain Newton, would it?" "Yes." "Well, I better be careful what I say, or I'll be ending up in the brig." Well, John made a friend soon with Bill. Bill showed him around at all the ship there, and he enjoyed talking with Bill and having someone just a little older who was paying attention to him. Remember how John had been ignored really by his father and stepmother and all the rest of the family? He finally had a friend. Well, he thought that the ship was going to set sail, but it was delayed because of bad weather. You guys know all about weather delays, right? All right, we've had some weather delays around here. Well, they had bad weather there in England too. They got a lot of rain and storms and stuff. And so he had to stay there on the ship, but he could go on the land there, on the River Thames there, and had to wait until the ship was going to leave. Well, one day, Bill came to him and said, "Hey, John, you think that this ship is neat?" wait until you see a warship. There is a warship just up the river, and it has 100 cannons on it. Listen, me and a couple friends, we're going to meet on Sunday at noon, and we're going to meet, and we're going to go. We've got a boat, a little rowing boat, and we're going to go out onto the river and see that warship up close. How about you come with us? Well, John knew that his father would not approve of that, going away and being there with Bill, but he also knew that his father didn't really pay much attention to him. So John said, okay. They arranged to meet on that Sunday, right around noon. Now, on Sundays, John went with his family. When he was home there, he would go to their church. And that Sunday, it seemed like Dr. Jennings preached longer than usual. Well, John was sitting in his pew saying, when is it going to be done? When's it going to be done? You've never done that, right? Oh, okay. Well, he thought, when's it going to be done? And it just seemed like Dr. Jennings went on, and finally he got done. And John quickly ducked out, and he had a horse, and he made his way as quickly as he could to try to meet with Bill and the others there where they were going to meet. And he raced on the horse, and he came over the hill to where the place was. And as he came over the hill, he looked, and he saw Bill and the friends had already began in their rowboat going out onto the River Thames towards the warship. And he called to them, but they couldn't hear him. He was too far away, and he thought, oh, now I missed it. I missed getting on the boat. Now I got to sit here and wait until they get back, and they're going to make fun of me for being late and everything. Well, John, he went down to the edge of the water and just watched as the boat, the little rowboat with Bill and the others, headed out there towards the warship. But as they headed out there, he noticed that the ship, the little rowboat, seemed to hit something, and soon it tipped over. And Bill and the others splashed into the water. Now, even though these were sailors, a lot of the sailors didn't know how to swim. And he watched as they flailed in the water, trying to get back onto the boat, and they couldn't do it. And soon a boat was dispatched from the warship to try to rescue them, to get there. But by the time it arrived, it was too late. Bill and those others on that rowboat had died. They had drowned. Oh, such sadness in John's life. Now his friend Bill was gone too. A few weeks later, John was back on the boat there, and the ship was ready to sail. And John was thinking a lot. He was thinking about his friend Bill and how sad he was not to have that friend anymore. But he also thought about himself. He thought, what if I had been on that rowboat? He knew that he was not a good swimmer either. And if he had been on that boat himself, and it had tipped over, he too would have died. Well, John there began to think of God's grace, his kindness to him. And he prayed to God. He said, God, I want to thank you for sparing my life. I know that if I had been on that little rowboat, if I had been there on time, I would have died as well. Well, I want to make a promise to you, God. I promised to live a life now that is right and true. I'm going to try hard. Well, do you think John was able to keep that promise? Do you think he could do it? He could just really work hard and be a good young man? No. Well, let's go ahead just a little bit further, a few years. John now, maybe about 5 or 6 years, John was now a teenager. And he sat before his father's desk. And his father was not happy. Can I go now? John said, shuffling his feet. No, you may not, he said. You have been on 5 voyages with me, John, and you have proved yourself unworthy. You haven't done any work at all during all those voyages. I've tried my best to try to get you a position where you would have a successful career, like Mr. Alvarez, my friend in Spain. I gave you a job there, working with him with his accounts. And you like math? Oh, John liked math a bit. But he said, you walked out on that job because you thought it was too boring. Well, John tried to act sorry, Like he was like, oh, I'm sorry. Maybe I'm just not cut out to be a sailor or a sea captain like you, Father. Well, his father softened a bit. He said, John, I don't expect you to be a captain of a ship like me, but I expect that whatever you do, to work hard at it. Well, his father said, I have another opportunity for you. Now listen up. Your parents ever say that? Listen up. He said, listen up. Okay, here's the opportunity. I have a friend whose name is Joseph Manistee, and he owns a sugar plantation in Jamaica, and his ship is going to be sailing in a couple weeks, actually in 3 weeks, and I want you to go on that ship, and if you go there to that plantation and work with Mr. Manistee, you could soon have a very important position and perhaps even have a sugar plantation of your own. You could be wealthy. Well, John didn't mind the thought of having some money. But then his father said, before you go, though, if you wonder what to do with the 3 weeks in between now and then, I'm going to send you on an errand to a town called Kent. And while you're there, after you deliver that thing for me, I want you to go to your mother's cousins, the Catlets. They live nearby. You remember them? Yeah. Well, John said, okay. And so he went there, and he did the errand for his father, the chore for his dad. He took care of that, and the last thing that he had to do before he was going to set sail was to go visit the Catlets. And so, within 2 weeks later, John was on the snowy road. It was during the wintertime, and he arrived at the door of the Catlets' house there, trudging through the snow. And he got there, and he thought, oh, let me get this over with. It will just be a boring visit. People talking and drinking tea. That's what they do in England, right? And he thought, oh, I just want to get on the voyage. And so he knocked at the door, and the door was opened by the most beautiful girl that John had ever seen. Oh, boy, you guys are like, oh, wait, this is going to turn into a love story. Oh, I'm sorry, there is some love in this story, okay? And the young girl said, hello, who are you? And John said, oh, he couldn't talk. He had trouble getting the words out. He said, John Newton. Oh, John Newton. Why, I'm Polly Catlett. Please come in. And soon John was invited in to be with the family there. And John soon realized that he wasn't so eager to leave visiting this family because he enjoyed getting to know Polly. She was the most beautiful girl he'd ever met there, and John was head over heels in love with Polly. Well, soon it was time for John to leave, to go to meet that ship, Joseph Manistee's ship. And John said, I don't think I'll go. And so he stayed there and until he stayed there an extra few weeks until that ship sailed without him. How do you think his father felt about that? You know, he's like, I'm trying everything here to plan your future. And soon, when John finally came back to his father's office, his father was furious once again. But John didn't care. You see, John did whatever he wanted to do. You know, it reminds me, it says in the book of Philippians about people whose God is their belly. And it reminds me that there are people who, they eat whatever they want to eat. That's what controls them. Well, some people, their God is their brains, you know, where they want to think. Or their God is their biceps. Well, for John, right now, he may have known about God. His mother had taught him, and he had learned at the church there. But his God was not the one true God. John did whatever he wanted to do. It was almost like his whatever his appetite was, whatever pleased him, that was what John did. And so if John wanted to stay, be with Polly, that's what he did. He would not think about responsibility at all. Well, his father, even though he was angry, he said, John, I don't know what to do with you, but I have another job for you. I have another opportunity for you to be a sailor on a ship, my friend's ship. And this time, John went on that voyage. and he learned how to be a pretty good sailor, to learn how to navigate the ship and all the jobs on the ship there. But John, during that ship, also learned some very sinful habits. He learned about drinking alcohol and swearing and doing whatever John wanted to do. And soon John was known for his drunkenness. He was known for his swearing. He was known for cursing more than any of the others. He wanted to be popular. Well, when he finally got back from that sea voyage, John knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go see Polly again. Well, his father didn't understand because John, of course, hadn't told his father that he was in love with a girl. He couldn't tell anyone that, it's a secret. And so his father didn't understand, why do you want to go back and visit the Catlets again? Must be they're cooking or something. But John's father agreed, and John soon was on the road there back to visit the Catlets. But his father, before John had left, he said, John, I expect you to be back quickly, though, because I have another job for you. My friend Mr. Dawes is going to be sailing soon, and I've arranged for you to be an officer on his ship. And so John, he heard that, but he went off to see the Catlets. And do you think John showed up for that ship? No, he wasted the opportunity again. He did whatever he wanted to do, and he spent time with Polly there and loved that. Well, John, again, forgot all about his responsibilities. He did whatever he wanted to do. Well, John stayed over a month this time, but John had a problem. He was now a young man, and he was starting to think about the future, about marrying Polly. He told her a little bit about his love, and she hadn't rejected him. But he was thinking, how could I marry Polly? I don't have a job. I don't have a position there. Her parents will never agree to it. You see, in that day, especially, you had to get the parents' permission. And do you think they would let John marry their daughter with no job? Well, John was thinking through this problem one afternoon in a nearby town of Chatham. And as he was walking and thinking about the problem, through the town he heard a voice. Looks like this fella's lost. And as John turned around, he realized that he had been followed by 3 men. Now, who do you think those 3 men were? Well, you're going to have to come back tomorrow and find out who they were, okay, and what they wanted with John, okay? So you come back tomorrow, and we'll learn a little bit more about that. But before we go, let's go back to that song. We're just going to sing that first verse of I Sing the Mighty Power of God. And I want you to think about it because God, the Creator God, He loves you. And He has shown you grace too. Even in the life that you have, the breath that you have, even in the fact that you are here at this school where you can hear about the good news of Jesus Christ, where you can have teachers who care about you and love you and invest their time in you. Those are all things that God has given to you so that you might know Him and worship Him. So let's stand up, I think, and we will sing this song, the first verse of it, and I think I'll dismiss you after that. Sound good, Mr. Lavoie? Okay, let's sing. I sing the mighty power of God that made the mountains rise, that spread the flowing seas abroad and built the lofty skies. I sing the wisdom that ordained the sun to rule the day. The moon shines full at His command, and all the stars obey. That's right, all those stars obey the commands of God. Will you be obedient to God as well? All right, have a great day. It's good to meet you. I'm looking forward to seeing you all throughout the week here, okay? You're dismissed. You are welcome. You're welcome.